I want to tell you guys a little bit about what we're going to do today and about this series that we just launched last week of webinars. What we're doing, hosting on an almost weekly basis every Friday, an educational webinar for our community about a specific feature. We're doing a deep dive into Ivy and showing you the specific function, how to use it, all the little tips and tricks, the hidden things that you might not know about. Last week we covered the project tracker, and today we are covering the proposal flow. So I'm really excited to share this with you guys. The proposal really is the starting point of your project, and it's where you can really manipulate a lot of the products, the services that you're going to present to your client. You can create your presentation, and it is so easy to do. And I want to show you a couple of the things that you might not know about. Okay. All right, everybody. So I'm just going to get started. I'm here in my demo account and in a project. So the first thing I want to do, Shari, I think I just saw that you just signed up for Ivy yesterday. So to start, if you want to create a project, all you need to do here is click on the sidebar and click Add New. And what we're going to do is basically just go straight into the Edit Project mode, because I want to show you a couple of things that will affect, the proposals, and something that we recently launched in Ivy. Our director of product, Helena, will be having a full new features breakdown webinar in just a few weeks. But this is really cool because we're going to talk about collecting payments on proposals. And what Ivy just launched is the ability for you to set default payment terms on your proposals. So what I'm going to do is in Edit Project mode, I'm going to scroll all the way down and click on Additional Settings. And this is literally something that we just launched this week. But in this Edit Project mode, you'll see down here the accounting and billing section. And you'll see that you can set now default payment options for all of your documents, whether that's your proposal or your invoice. For those of you that have been on Ivy for a while now, you will remember that you had to previously select every single time you sent out a document, whether you want to offset the fee, whether you want to allow credit card payments or not. Here you can actually set defaults per project, and this is really exciting. So again, you can access that by going into Edit Project, Additional Settings, and then Accounting and Billing Settings. And like I said, Helena, our director of product, is going to go over all of the new features that we recently launched in just a few weeks. But one more thing that I want to show you, and this is something that designers have been asking for a while, is the ability to be transparent with your clients about your markup. And again, this is something that you can set on a project level. So if you are transparent with your client, if they know that your cost that you are charging them is your cost plus markup, and you want them to see that, you can actually allow them to view the markup percentage right over here just by toggling it on. Okay, so that's where we're going to start. We're just going to start with this default options on the project level. Okay. So by default, by the way, it's already toggled to allow credit card payments, allow bank transfer, and denies the ability to charge client transaction fee and view markup percentage. Of course, these can be changed on an individual document basis as well, just like before. Okay. All right. So we are doing a deep dive into the proposal. And one of the reasons why I love proposals in Ivy is because they allow you to really play around with your client-facing items. So any kind of ideation that you have, anything that you are putting together for your client to see, should start in the proposal. And the reason why I say that is because if you're starting with an invoice, you're creating an official document of income. And if you're going to go ahead and invoice your clients for a sofa, for example, that you're buying them, you because you created an invoice, you owe taxes on that. It's a document of income. So what we want to do is start in the proposal phase, because a lot of the times there is back and forth that can last weeks, that can last months, and we want to get all of that out of the way with the proposal. So what I've done, I'm in my project CP remodel, and I've toggled over to the proposals tab here. For me to create a new proposal, all I'm going to do is click create new proposal. And for those of you that are seasoned on Ivy, don't worry, I'm sure you know how to do this, but I do want to show you a couple of ins and outs within the document that you might not know about, and that can really be a help to your workflow going forward. Okay. So as soon as I create my new proposal, I see this sidebar pop out. And this sidebar entails my products and services library. So what I'm going to do, again, for those of you that are seasoned, you already know, you can toggle between all products and all services and actually filter through your product library. So any items that you've added to your library using the clipper, any items that you've manually added to your library, you'll be able to filter through them all over here and add them directly to your proposal. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just add a couple of items so you can see what it looks like. And this is also the place where you can add an item on the spot. So I've heard a lot of designers say, you know, I don't source online. Sometimes I just buy something from Home Goods and I don't have the time to put it into my library. No problem. You can always add it directly onto your proposal simply by clicking this little button at the bottom that says Add New Product. Here, you can add the relevant details, assign it a vendor, add your description, and you can add it directly to your proposal. Okay. And the reason why I have the same product so many times over here is because I just am consistent. I love clicking, saving the same items. If you only have this will show you everything in your library. In my case, I have a lot of duplicates. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and also show you the services button. So the services are where you can add and where you can bill your client for any labor, any painting, installation services. If you're charging your client a flat fee, you can charge your flat fee directly on this proposal. Again, the same rules apply where you can simply add a new service on the spot. So it doesn't have to be a service that you created ahead of time. You can simply add it right over here on the spot, especially if it's a special case that pertains to this proposal specifically. So to give you an example, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually create a service for upholstery. Let's say this armchair that I just added to my proposal, I'm going to reupholster it and I want to show my client what that's going to look like. So here I'm going to create a service title called upholstery. I can categorize it as labor and add my description. So I'm going to say reupholstery of armchair for living room. And I can add my price. If I don't know it, I can always add it directly onto the proposal itself and save it. Okay. So this is how you add services. These services come directly from your products and services library. And you can filter through your products, your services, whatever it is, right here in this sidebar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll to the top just to break down a couple of the details on this proposal so you understand what they all mean. So first of all, we see our client name and our client's billing address. These are set as when you create a project and you assign it to a specific client. Your billing address will always appear on the proposal or the invoice because these are actually billing documents. They are client-facing billing documents. So you'll always see the billing address versus in a purchase order, you will see the shipping address. Over here, my client's email address, this is the one that is associated with the client. I'll see that right over here. And my payment terms. So sometimes you will have different payment terms, net 15, net 30, net 60, or custom. These payment terms will be listed on the document itself. So you can select them right over here so your client can see it. The proposal date here, same thing. If you work retroactively, proactively, whatever it is, you can set the date of this actual proposal. So in this case, it defaults to today's date when it was created. However, if you want it to set to next week, you could just choose from the drop-down calendar, whatever date you need. Right over here, you can select a due date. And the due date is important because you can actually set payment reminders for past due payments. And that due date comes directly from this due date that we see here in edit mode. So for example, if I'm setting this out for net 15, you'll see that my due date automatically changes to 15 days from today. Same thing, net 30, net 60, I will see those all right over here. And for those of you that work with different team members, that have multiple team members, the document owner right over here tells you who is responsible for this document. It defaults to the project creator, to the project owner, but I'm going to go ahead and keep it as Fred, even though I am Sivan. I'm going to keep it as Fred right for this case. Okay. Scrolling along the line item itself. So right over here, we have a breakdown of that item that we just added from our products and services library. We see the breakdown right over here. And what's really great about this is that there's no manual work required on your end to enter the title, the description. You'll see the image that is associated with the item is already included here. We have the quantity, the cost, the markup already set. But I want to go through each of these individual items. So the first is the title. What's so important about this title? This title, Knoll Purple Womb Chair, is the title that I actually got directly from the vendor's website. One thing that some designers don't want to do is guide their clients directly to their vendor's website by providing the exact same title that we found online. Instead, what I'm going to do is change the name here. And what's really cool about this, excuse me, what's really cool about this is you'll see this italicized product name, Knoll Purple Womb Chair, the same exact name that we saw before, in italics below. And what that means is that internally, we know that this is the Knoll Purple Womb Chair. But to our client, we are creating an alias name. We're creating an alias for this product so that they cannot go and shop us and look for that same product online. So you will always see, no matter if you change the title here in the description or on the proposal itself, you will still know the name of this chair internally. If you ever need to revert it, you could just click this refresh button and you'll see Knoll Purple Womb Chair appears once again. So I'll change it back to armchair. And the description. So it's a little bit hard for me to read this description in such a small space. So two things that you could do here. The first, you can actually drag it so that it opens up and you could see the full description. And you'll see also this little pop-out button. I can just click the pop-out button and see it on a full screen like this. So it's much easier for me to say, see everything that I need to see and change this to just armchair for living room. Again, we're trying to, in this case, what I'm doing is I'm limiting the information that my client actually sees. Okay. Going forward, the image is associated, the same image that you added to your clipper, the same image that you added to your product library. You'll see it right over here. You can always change that if you need to, just by clicking choose file. And the quantity. So by default, it is 1. If you need to increase that, you could do so right here. The cost here listed is the cost that is to you. And your markup percentage. So what's really cool about your markup is whenever you add an item to your library, there is a default markup associated with the item if you included one. You'll see that listed right over here. So you can either set your markup as a percentage. So if you know, if your agreement with your client is that you are cost plus 30% markup, no problem, set it at 30. But a lot of the times we might not know what we want our markup to be. For example, if we have if we see the retail cost of this item, but we are getting a trade cost, we can simply set, by clicking on this little calculator button, we can set a target price for this item. So what that means, my cost is $3,968. I want it to cost to my client a flat $5,500. I can set my target price, click set markup, and I'll see right over here, I now have this really funky markup number with a lot of digits, but that is the exact number. Ivy's doing the math for you to get your total cost to your client at $5,500. Okay, so that calculator, anytime you see it on the Ivy Clipper, in the product library, that's what that calculator means. It allows you to set your target price so that you can create that exact number that you want to sell to your client. Okay. MSRP discount. So I speak with a lot of designers, and a lot of designers structure their workflow in the way that they like to show their client basically that they are getting, by purchasing through the designer, they are getting a 10% off retail discount. And what's great about that is that if you are showing your client that, you want to show them the benefit of purchasing through you. You want to make that markup. You want to make your client happy. You want to be transparent about that. So what you can do here actually is to show your MSRP discount. All you need to do is click MSRP discount. And what you'll do, if you haven't previously set an MSRP for this product, you can set the MSRP here if you know it. So let's say, for example, I know that the vendor is selling this for $5,700. I get a crazy discount because I'm a trade vendor. I can simply set my MSRP and show the discount. In this case, it's only 3.5% off retail with their total cost, but you'll see that you are still able to see that 3.5% off retail cost associated with this item. So you are explicitly showing to your client the benefit of purchasing through you. Okay. If you need to remove that, no problem, just X out of it. Okay. All right, moving on here. Right over here, you can see the shipping cost and the markup. Now, this shipping is calculated on an individual basis right over here per line item. And because this is a proposal, this is a really good time to estimate those costs. Of course, nothing is final. Everything is subject to change because this is a proposal. It is a working document. This is not an invoice that you are billing for final payment collection. This is simply an invoice. So if you worked with this vendor, if you received an estimate on what the shipping is going to cost, you can simply add it right over here. And if you take a markup on shipping, once again, you can add your markup percentage right over here. Okay. You'll see the taxable column. A lot of the times I'll get designers asking how taxes are calculated in Ivy. It's actually calculated on an item by item basis. And beyond that, the product, the item itself, the taxes are calculated separately from the shipping. So some states charge taxes for shipping, some do not. You can decide what you need to do by selecting the appropriate taxable line item right over here. Okay. And lastly, room tags, the last item in this invoice line item, in this proposal line item, excuse me. Room tags allow you to assign a specific item or service to a room. So these rooms are what are created when you create a project. You can set rooms for the entire project. So in this case, I have a couple of rooms that are preset. However, you can always add a room on the spot. And this is super, super helpful because it allows you to designate items to rooms. So if you are doing a proposal for multiple rooms, you can differentiate what goes where per item, and it makes a really pleasant client experience. So I'm just going to add a new living room just to show you what that looks like, and I've assigned it right over here. All right, so I'm not going to necessarily repeat the information that we just did, but I want to show you on the service item right over here, you can add an image if you have one. However, I'm also going to add a markup. Even though my upholsterer costs $500, I'm going to charge my client $500 plus 10%, take that extra 50 for the cost of doing business. And once again, I can assign this to a room right over here. Okay. So if you need to add items directly here, you can either click add another item or the plus button, and the same sidebar will pop up that we saw before. All right. Okay. So I've now scrolled down to the bottom. We've kind of taken care of all of the line items on this individual proposal. And I want to show you two more things here that are really helpful in this proposal. The document tags here actually allow you to identify this particular proposal in your entire list of project proposals. So this is super helpful if you are, in this case, we are talking about furniture for the living room. I can simply call this living room furniture and click enter, and you'll see that a tag is created. And when you look at the list of documents for your project, this document tag will pop up in one of the columns. So it will really easily allow you to understand what proposal is for what. So sometimes, you know, when you're working on a bunch of proposals for a specific project, this will be super helpful. You can add as many tags as you need to. For example, we talked about doing a custom armchair. I can also call this custom armchair. And I will be able to identify this very easily. Right down here, you'll see a memo to be displayed on the proposal. You have two different kinds of default memos. You have one across your entire account and one project specific. And this memo, you can always set it ahead of time in your project settings or in your account settings. And this is a really great place to add your terms and conditions or adding details saying, you know, all of these prices are proposed and shipping and final billing will be collected at the following invoice. I've seen a variation of these memos, anything from something as simple as no returns on custom items all the way to a page-long terms and conditions for the client to see. So this is really your opportunity to communicate with the client and have that record of communication on the document directly. So in this case, I'm just going to say no returns on custom items, sales tax and shipping to be collected at final invoice. Okay? And we'll see this included directly on the item itself. Moving on, I'm going to look at the subtotal right over here, and I'm going to just zoom in a little bit so you could see this a little bit more clearly, I hope. And we'll see a couple of different things, and I want to show you specifically a couple of points here that you might not yet know about. So the first, we have a subtotal. This shows us the total for the products themselves, not inclusive of shipping or tax. And while we associated the shipping cost and the tax on the line item itself, to make for a more pleasant client experience, we actually calculate the shipping cost and the tax on a document basis. And we'll get into this in just a moment, but this will really allow your client to see and we'll see what it looks like on your client's end, but just to see this number on a total basis. So they don't need to think about the fact that their armchair has a $100 shipping charge and that their pole for their window treatments has a $50 shipping charge. We just want to show them everything as a total to make it easier. So right over here, you'll see the total for the document shipping cost. You'll also see the total tax for the entire document. And what I want to show you here is this little eyeball button. It's really hard to see, it's gray, but when you click on it, these numbers are internal only, but these numbers are super, super helpful for you because they allow you to see at a glance what your profit is going to be. You'll see right over here the total cost. So this is the internal cost. You'll see the total markup. You'll see your shipping and then your shipping markup. And this is really helpful before you ever save this, before you ever send it to your client. I've seen kind of nightmare stories where sometimes somebody will say, oh, I forgot to include my markup and I already sent it to my client. They're getting my wholesale price. This is a really great habit to get into, to just check the document and make sure that the markup is there. Make sure that you're charging enough. Make sure that you're trying to reach that 40% gross profit margin. Make sure that this item number lines up. So always, always, always utilize that little eyeball button. Okay? And last thing I want to do over here in this internal edit mode is the request deposit. This is really huge. And for a lot of designers who came from using QuickBooks Online only originally, you'll remember that one benefit of using Ivy and starting everything in Ivy is that Ivy allows you to collect deposits on proposals. And this is a huge benefit for your workflow. What we find when you are charging your client, when you are paying furniture when you're paying vendors for your client's items, you always want to collect money up front. You never want to pay out of pocket and then hope that your client pays you back. No matter how trustworthy a client is, you want to protect yourself. You need to collect a deposit up front. And Ivy gives you the ability to do this in two different ways. The first is a percentage deposit. This is really fun. We just launched this, I believe, about a month ago. And this allows you to set a percentage deposit for your entire document. So what that means, I want to collect 50% upfront to protect myself. Of course, we at Ivy always just recommend 100% deposit up front, no questions asked. I can always set it at 100. But what's also good here, if you have an agreement with your client, you just want to take almost like a security deposit, you can simply toggle over to the dollar sign and collect a specific dollar amount. So I can say here, no matter what, I need to collect $4,000 from my client. You could do whatever suits you. This is your opportunity to work however you need to work. In this case, I'm just going to collect a 50% deposit and click Save. All right, so while that's saving, what we're going to do is a couple of things. So first of all, this is now going to be your next step before you send this to your client. I want to show you all of the different things that you can do within this mode right here. We're no longer in edit mode. We've already created this proposal. And you'll see kind of a glimpse of what this will look like on your client's end. You have your logo, you have your firm's information right over here. And then the proposal details. This is an official document, billing document. So once again, you see the billing address, you see the payment terms, the proposal date, the due date. Again, we had selected net 15, so our due date is 15 days from today. And as I scroll down, you'll see a couple of the things before we even toggle into manage mode. You'll see that document tag. This is the living room furniture, the armchair. We could see that memo, no returns on custom items, sales tax and shipping to be collected at final invoice. And we'll also see the breakdown of these line items. So we'll see, just as we did before in the edit mode, our subtotal, our shipping, taxes, and then our deposit that's requested. This is 50% deposit. But I want to show you here a couple of different things. So you'll see right now we're in client view. Client view will always hide the vendor and it will hide the markup percentage unless you are transparent with your markup and have set that ability in your edit project mode. So what I want to do is I want to toggle over to manage mode. All I need to do is click on manage. And you'll see I'm going to just go straight into that first line item. Our view changes a little bit. All of a sudden, we see this bold, italicized word, Knoll Purple Womb Chair. And this is our internal notes. This is what the title was before we changed it just to armchair. You'll also see that in parentheses below, the markup percentage that is included in this cost, as well as the markup on shipping. And what you'll also see when we toggle over to manage mode is you have a couple of abilities that you can enable your client to do. So the first, as I said before, you can set default for your project now, whether your client sees the markup percentage, but you can also set this on a document basis. So all you need to do is toggle to manage and click view markup percent. Or you can also give your client line item approval. And this is what is so great about this proposal process. Line item approval only exists on the proposal because, and not on the invoice itself. So this is a really good opportunity for you to play around with Ivy, give your clients that feeling of being in control, and also just have a really, really, really easy proposal to invoice experience. And we'll get through that in a second. Okay. So what I've done here is I've given my client approval per line item. I will toggle back to client view. Once again, you will see here, there's no markup percentage. There's no original title. It is in the client view now. So they can't see anything unless I want them to. And we'll look at what this looks like on the client's end as well. But I want to show you one more thing that we can do in manage mode. And this is really helpful if you're working with custom items, or if, and what I'm going to show you is grouping. Grouping is super helpful if you're also billing your time. So let me show you what this looks like. It's a function that you can really translate into different areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply select two things here. So in this case, we have the armchair and then we have the upholstery. First of all, while we're in manage mode here, you can drag and drop the appearance of this. So let's say you want your leather and turquoise metal armchairs to go first. All you need to do is drag and drop it, click and drag. Really cool. But you can also group together items. So for me to do that, all I need to do is select multiple items. On my computer, I just need to click Shift, click, and Shift, click right over here. And as soon as you select two items or more, there's a button that pops up here that says click to group items. Again, we're in manage mode, so this is only doable in manage mode right over here. So I click to group my items together. And what we have over here was our armchair and then the reupholstery. So I'm going to call this custom armchair. We're now creating, essentially, we're grouping this item together so that our client will either see it as one or just have a really more digestible view of this custom armchair. I have my group description. I can select an image directly from my desktop. I have my quantity, the rate. This is the total of both the product and the service group together. And you'll see a breakdown of the grouped items. So in this case, I have the reupholstery and then I have the armchair and I can save it. And grouping items together is super, super helpful. If you, like I said, if you are working with custom items, this is a really great way to make it easier for your client to understand and for your client to see that. Sorry, my Wi-Fi just went out. I'm going to do this one more time right over here. And let me go ahead and just add this and I'll save it. And What will happen here is you'll basically be able to see this item as one item on your invoice. So once that happens, I'm going to go ahead and in this case, we'll pretend that it does show as one. It looks like my demo account is freezing up for a second, but it will allow you to group together. So sometimes you want to see all the items for a living room in one. You can simply group them together and call that the living room group. It's really, really great. And all you need to do is toggle over to manage mode, select 2 items, and group it together. Okay, perfect. So one last thing that I want to show you here in this view, in this client-facing view, is these top 3 buttons. So what you can do is click these top 3 buttons in the top right-hand corner, and you'll see all of the different options that you have that you can take care of for this proposal. So you'll see the top 2 options are viewing tear sheets. So this is really helpful if you want to have the ability to create tear sheets on the spot with or without pricing. And they're made for you automatically. They have your logo in the top right-hand corner. They have the project name, the room assignment. You also have the group of the images and the title, the description, and the total cost. There is no markup percentage listed. There is no vendor information listed. These are client-facing documents that you can create directly from the proposal or the invoice. So moving below, same thing, you'll see right over here in this armchair, we had shown the 3.5% off retail. It appears right over here. These tear sheets, you can download them to your computer. You can also, and you can send them along with your proposal if you want to, or you can simply print them out if you are not yet at that phase. So that was just access by clicking the top 3 buttons and accessing view tear sheets. One more thing I want to show you that you can do is you can download the PDF. So just to protect yourself, I would always recommend downloading a PDF of your items, of your documents, so you have that original record on hand. So I'm going to click download PDF right over here. And you'll see what it looks like in PDF format. It looks super professional. It has your logo on the top, your firm's information, all of the relevant information that we just discussed with a breakdown. So this is something that's totally easy to access both for you and for your client. So once again, you could download this PDF, save it to your desktop, just save it for your records right there. Okay. Perfect. So just moving on to the bottom over here, the attachment section. This is where you can add any images that you want to show your client. So you can send a contract, you could send, if you have a mood board that you have created offline, whatever it is that you want to show them. In this case, I'm just going to show the tear sheets that we just created just so you could see what it looks like. Apologies. But you can send any attachments that you want along with your proposal directly to your client. And we'll take a look at what that looks like on your client's view as well. All right. So what I'm going to do here is simply send the proposal, click send. And you'll see a couple different things here. So first of all, the client's email is automatically populated, but you can also check this box and you can BCC yourself on the email so you have a record of what's going out to your client. You could send it directly to your inbox. And you can also set a reply to email address. So by default, the reply to email will be the person who is sending out the document, whether that's a team member. But here you'll be able to set the default reply to as yourself or somebody else to handle. Over here, we have the subject line for this email. This is a digital proposal that we are sending to our clients. And once again, we also have a default email message. So just as I mentioned before, you could set default memos for your project. Here, you can also set default emails. And once again, I can click the bottom right and expand it open. And with our proposals, we see two different things. First, we see allow deposit payments. So this will give us the ability to collect the payment on the deposit that we had requested. Sometimes though, if you're just wanting to get approval from your client on this proposal, you can toggle back to approval only. However, in this case, we did request a deposit. I do want to give my client the payment option. So you'll see over here, I can select whether to give them a credit card or bank transfer option individually. And you also see right down here the ability to charge your client the transaction fee. If you are able to offset the transaction fee and you want to do that, simply click this button and send it off. Again, these payment terms are now able to be set as defaults for your project. So no need to do this on an individual document basis now. You can always just set the default in your edit project. So once you send it, I want to show you an example of what this looks like. Your client, on your client's view, your client receives an email from your firm with your logo, and they'll be able to see your personalized email message. All they need to do is click View Proposal. They don't need to log in. All they need to do is click View Proposal, and they're taken to a landing page. Now, this proposal is different than the one that you and I just worked on, but I want to show you what it looks like nonetheless. You'll see over here your title. You'll see your firm's information, your logo, and you'll be able to see what your client sees. So in this case, your client can actually click on the items, which is really awesome. It's like a digital tear sheet for them. They see a pop-up view, they see a bigger image of what you gave them, of what you're presenting to them. So it makes it for a little bit of a positive client experience. Okay. Your client can also download the PDF of your proposal on their end as well. So if they want to have the record, if they want to take any notes, they can just click download PDF, and you'll see, just like it appeared for us, they can download the PDF of the proposal itself. But let me show you what the actual document that we created, what that looks like. When I go to preview, I can see what it looks like on my client's end. So in this case, this is the one that we just worked on together. This is the one that has the attachment. You'll see it right over here. They can just access any attachments that you included directly from their proposal. And when they click on the item, it'll open up in a new tab. So it's really all about creating a positive experience for your client. They can click on the items, they can scroll through them, and it's really comfortable for your client to see. And in this case here, we have the approval per line item set up. What I want to do is show you what it looks like. If your client declines an item, this will show them explicitly that their subtotal changes on the spot, that the money that is due to you all of a sudden changes. And this is so important because it gives your client that ability to kind of cut back on the back and forth, where instead of sending a document and them saying, I like this, I don't like this, what about this? You can just give them the line item approval. They could say yes or no to each item individually, and they'll see right in front of their eyes that their subtotal changes. Okay. So this is on your client view. If you did enable payments, I wanted to show you what that looks like over here. Your client would see a Pay Now button. They'll see the deposit that you requested right up there. And in this case, I had offset the transaction fee to my client. A lot of you might ask what it looks like. This is exactly what it looks like for your client. They can select credit card, and they'll be prompted to enter their credit card information. And they can also select bank transfer, and they'll be prompted to log into their bank. So it's really, really simple for your clients to pay you online, and they can explicitly see the fees that are associated if you did offset that charge. Okay. I'm going to go back to Ivy now that we've seen the client experience. And a lot of you, yes, I'm talking about online payments, but sometimes your client will still just pay you in a check, or they'll pay you in cash, or you have a different agreement with them that doesn't require an online payment. Totally fine. You don't need to take payments through Ivy. We just make it simple for you to do that. If you do want to take a payment offline, all you would need to do here is click Add New Payment. And you'll see you can pay on behalf of your client. So if your client did give you their credit card, what a blessing, that never happens. You can just pay on their behalf, or you can record the payment that you have received. So let's say they paid you by check. All you need to do is toggle over to Record Received Payment, select your payment method, and manually enter the information. So in this case, you'll see that the amount that is being reflected is our deposit amount. What you can even do here is send a receipt for this payment, for this manual payment that you're recording. You could send a receipt directly to your client right over here. Okay, so we'll break down how you can see this, how you can analyze what that payment was. All I need to do is, in this Payments tab, click on See Details. I'll see the payment that was sent to me. I'll see the total payment, the amount that was applied to this invoice, to this proposal, excuse me. And I can even send my payment receipt, if I did not already do so, directly from that little blue pop-out button. If this is a manual recorded payment, sometimes you made a mistake, you need to edit it, no problem. Because this is a payment that we manually recorded, we can manipulate it just by clicking the pencil button, or by clicking the trash button, we can delete it. All right. Okay, so taking a step away from the proposal, what's really great here, let's say your client did decline an item. I want to convert this to an invoice. When it comes time to billing my client for the final total, all I need to do is click Start Invoice, and it will create an invoice for me. And it will only carry over the approved items. And I can do the same thing where I can create a PO directly from this proposal. So if we're not yet ready to bill our clients for that final invoice, we can simply create a purchase order directly from this proposal. Now, because this is the proposal session, I don't want to get too much into invoicing and into POs. I really wanted to focus on all the different components of the proposal itself. And I mentioned early on, there is an option to set up automatic payment reminders for past due payments. So I want to show you where that is. So I'm going to toggle away from the actual proposal itself. And I'm going to click on the top right-hand corner. And on the top right-hand corner, I can click on My Account. And I will see right over here the Account Settings tab. So these account settings are only visible to the administrator on the account. If you are not the administrator, you will not see this tab. And this is really helpful. This is where you can see the default project memos. As we saw the proposal memo, if you have your terms and conditions that you want to send to your client, you could do so right over here. You can set your default project emails. What we just saw, you could set it right over here across the entire company. Please note that if you do add default memos here and you already have documents created, it will not retroactively affect those documents. It will simply apply to future documents created. And like I mentioned, those payment reminders for past due payments. We've been talking a lot about online payments. So you can actually, in this settings tab, create friendly reminders for past due payments. And this has been a huge help. We don't want to chase down our clients telling them, hey, you owe us money. Hey, you owe us money for this invoice. That's a really uncomfortable conversation to have. And yes, as a business owner, we all have to have that conversation. But you can set payment reminders across the board for past due payments. So that due date, the net 15, August 5th due date that we have, you could set a payment reminder for immediately after that due date, 2 weeks after, 1 month after, or if you prefer not to send that, just click never. By default, it is never. And you can also set the term for which these friendly reminders are due. So Ivy is kind of relentless. We send an automatic reminder for past due payments every other day for the term until it is paid. So we really want to make sure that you get that money. So definitely take advantage of this if you do not want to have that awkward conversation. Okay. So just to recap a couple of things before I get into questions. I know we're wrapping up. I wanted to keep this session to an hour, so I will get to a couple of questions in a second. Just to recap a couple of things, edit project mode. This is where you can set your rooms. Those are the room tags. This is where if you click on additional settings, you could set default project memos, default emails. You can set your payment terms for the project. And on proposals themselves, so many things that you could do. We went through the line items themselves. When I click on the proposals tab, that document tag that we had added, you'll see it right over here. You'll see the status of it. You'll also see the little eyeball button right over here, which allows you, anytime you see the eyeball, it's a sneak peek into either your document total, or in this case, a preview of what is on this proposal itself. And again, always utilize these top 3 buttons on the top right-hand corner. You'll be able to get the tear sheets. You'll be able to view the document, download the PDF. And one last thing that I forgot to show you, actually, I'm so happy that I clicked on that, is the document timeline. So this is really great. All you need to do is, if you want to understand when you sent it, when your client opened it, this document timeline is amazing because it will show you an overview. So in this case, we created the proposal at this time. We received a payment at this time. We'll see if the document had been sent. I even believe I have another example open somewhere over here. I do not. We'll see if the document had been sent, at what time it was sent, when our client opened it, when our client submitted their approval, with timestamps. So always remember that the document timeline is here, and it is here to help you. I've talked to some designers who are really funny. They're like, oh, I worked so late. I had a glass of wine. I don't remember if I sent this invoice. Just check the document timeline for that timestamp. Make sure that it was actually sent just by clicking right over here, View Document Timeline. Okay. So I know I've taken up a lot of your time, Ivies. I'm going to go ahead and go through some questions here. And if I don't get to any questions, please feel free to email me after this. Always happy to answer your questions. My email is sivan, S-I-V-A-N, @ivy.co. Always happy to edit or to answer your questions. All right, so I'm going to start at the top. So how can you delete a proposal? Alyssa, you can only delete a document if it does not have a payment attached to it. Otherwise, it gets a little bit tricky. We don't want you to be deleting payments. Like, that's not a good accounting practice. So in this case, just to show you how you would delete a proposal, I would first delete the payment. In this case, it's a manually recorded payment, so I can delete it as the user. And I'm going to just refresh my page here. And you'll see my delete option right over here. This applies to invoices and purchase orders as well. You can never delete a paid document. You have to delete the payment first. Okay. Beth, you're asking, how can you add a photo for a labor item? On the line item itself, right over here, you can choose a file. Excuse me. So you can associate the service item with an image, but that is on an item by item basis on the document itself. If you want to, I've been speaking with Helena, and we do want to eventually be able to add default images for services, which I know would be so helpful. But as of this moment, you add it right over here. I'm looking at some questions over here. Somebody, Christina, you are asking, at this time, you're asking about dragging and dropping. At this time, there is not a better way to sort. I would recommend putting it in from the project tracker. So, doing it room by room. So, for example, we covered in last week's session how to add draft items to your project. I would simply add it room by room to your project tracker and then to your proposal, so that it all does appear in order. But that is a really great product suggestion that I'll bring to Helena about sorting the items by room. Beth, you were also asking about being able to, can you go through the product items created and assign them to a project? Yes, you can absolutely do that. As I mentioned earlier, you can always pre-associate an item with a specific project. And you can do that directly from the Ivy Clipper, or in your product library, you can do so right over here. All you need to do is select the items that you want to associate with a project by clicking the check marks right next to it. Click on the top 3 buttons. Again, top 3 buttons, anytime you see those are magical buttons. They have extra options for you, so always utilize those. And just click Add to Project. So you are pre-associating an item with a specific project directly from your library. What I'm going to do, okay, I'm continuing to go through these. We added a shipping item to the services. Is that the best way to do a workaround? We don't like to do it item by item, as we just do a percentage markup on the entire proposal for shipping. Yes, Christina, you can absolutely add shipping as an item to the service. You will see that one of the default service categories is shipping. And so that's exactly what that's intended for. If you do prefer to just bill for shipping at once, sometimes people don't, like you said, don't like to do it on an item by item basis. They bill it as soon as they have their final shipping cost. Absolutely. That is exactly the way to do it. So Amy, the room tags come through on a purchase order as a side mark to help associate the items. You can always edit the side mark on the purchase order itself. And you'll see in the project tracker that you have the ability to see both the room tag and the side mark. So it's not an all or nothing situation, but that is by default, it's transferred over as the default side mark, but you can always edit it on the PO itself. So right over here, for example, you'll see the title of living room. I'm in my project tracker right now. I have pivoted. And as I scroll across, I'll be able to see one of my options here is side mark. So if I did have a specific side mark that I created on my PO, I would be able to see both the room tag and the side mark. And Beth, you're asking about the approval toggle in a neutral position rather than approved. That is something that will be coming when we release room boards later this year. It will be a neutral position. It will be an item by item, yes or no. For Tove, I think is Tove, you're asking, can you specify the unit type, each versus roll versus square feet? I would do that in the description or in the title of the item. So you can always say the quantity. So for example, I'm going to go into my proposal into edit mode just to show you what I mean. But what I've seen a lot of designers do is they will associate the cost of an item or a square foot as the unit cost, and then they'll change the quantity here. So for example, let's say this is $500 per square feet and I'm working with 30 square feet. That's exactly how they would show it. And then they would just say cost per square foot. That's how I would do it, or I would add it in the description. But you could basically say this unit cost as any unit, but just add it in the description or in the title. Maria, you're asking, how do you ungroup furniture in the proposal? All you would do in manage mode is click edit, toggle over to manage mode, and you have an edit button, and then you can delete the group. That's how you would do that. Shauna, you're asking about the print functions for proposals. There certainly is. you would simply want to download the PDF. That is the print function. So you download the PDF and then you can print this PDF. And this is the one that you're going to want to print because it will show you the line item breakdown. So in this case, a decline, for example. Okay. Somebody's asking, if you group two items like the chair and the upholstery, when you send the proposal with the accept or decline by line item, can they accept or decline each item or accept or decline them as a whole? Great question. So you can do both. It's really a flexible system. So you can either allow your client to view the entire grouped item together, or you can show them the individual items. So let me go back to our manage mode and see if this will work. But basically, when you go into manage mode and you have a group, there's an option here that says allow client to view group contents. So if you want them to see each individual item in that group and approve per line item, you would want both options turned on. If you only want them to see custom furniture without all of the nitty gritty, without knowing all the different components that go into it, you can simply deselect, or I guess turn off view group contents and keep approve per line item on. Okay. I think we are just wrapping up. It's 10 o'clock. And what I want to do is I want to let you guys know that we are hosting next week a webinar with QuickBooks Online. We have an official partnership with QuickBooks Online. So we are going to go through some best practices, how Ivy integrates with QuickBooks, a little bit of how to, what you can do, what QuickBooks can do, what Ivy can do, with our QuickBooks expert, Andy, and with Matthew from QuickBooks Online. So we're hosting that next week. Definitely make sure to tune in. We are also hosting in September Ivy Academy, a full day in-person training session and our community brought to life. Please make sure to reach out to me if you have any questions. Ellie, if you could please include the link in the chat so anybody can access it. Happy to answer any questions. If I didn't get to your question, please email me, sivan@ivy.co. I'm happy to answer any questions. And like I said, we will be having a new features webinar with Helena, our director of product, starting, I believe that's in 2 weeks. So we will send you all information on that. But thank you all so much for spending your Friday morning with me. I really appreciate it. And I hope that this has given you some insights into ways that you can maximize the proposal. So looking forward to talking with you guys again soon. Take care.